Hello my motor enthusiasts. You're tuned into F1 Motor Fever podcast.
Hello Enzo, quite the showdown at the Spanish Grand Prix, wasn't it?
Absolutely, William. Max Verstappen clinched his third consecutive victory, but it was no walk in the park this time.
Right you are. Lando Norris really turned up the heat on Max, didn't he?
Indeed, he did. Starting on pole, Norris looked solid, but it was Verstappen's strategic early pass that set him up for the win.
And let's not forget Lewis Hamilton snagging his first podium of the season. Seems like Mercedes is picking up the pace.
True that, William. Hamilton praised his team's strategy, though he believes a better start could have strengthened his position even further.
It's fascinating how the dynamics are shifting this season. McLaren's confidence, Mercedes' strategic push, and Red Bull needing to squeeze out more performance.
Absolutely, the competition is fierce and every small advantage counts. The upcoming races in Austria and Silverstone are going to be crucial.
Couldn't agree more. It's all about those fine margins in Formula One.
Hello there, my motor enthusiasts. I'm Enzo coming to you from the heart of Formula One action on F1 Motor Fever podcast, where we broadcast every day to bring you the latest and greatest from the world of motorsports.
And I'm William, here to add a bit more color to our discussions with insights and analyses.
Definitely, and folks, if you love what we're doing here, do subscribe to our channel, turn on those notifications, drop us a comment, and share the podcast with your friends and family. Your support is what keeps our engines running.
Absolutely, every bit of interaction helps us bring more of these thrilling discussions to you.
Today's episode is a real corker. You won't believe the developments from the latest race. It's moments like these that make Formula One more than just racing, it's high-octane drama on wheels.
Couldn't have put it better myself. The strategies, the rivalries, it's all heating up, and we've got the inside scoop for you.
So, keep it locked here, because we're about to dive deep. Full throttle. So, moving back to the Spanish Grand Prix, Max Verstappen really had to pull out all the stops this time to secure his 61st victory. The start was particularly dramatic, wasn't it?
Absolutely, the maneuver on lap 2 where he took the lead was crucial. And it's interesting how he emphasized the importance of that early pass on George Russell. Seems like those initial moves set the tone for the rest of the race.
Indeed, and Verstappen mentioned having to rally on the straight, even going into the grass, which must have been quite a tense moment. That aggressive strategy he spoke about, that was a gamble that clearly paid off in the end.
Yes, and the tire management, he touched on that as well. The tires were getting hot, and he had to manage sliding around those high-speed corners. It's a fine line between pushing the car to its limits and conserving enough to finish the race strongly.
That's true. And it's not just the physical aspects, but the mental game as well. Holding off a fast-approaching Lando Norris and dealing with the inconsistent middle part of the race, it must have been incredibly challenging.
Definitely a test of resilience. And this victory being at the same track where he claimed his first Formula One win adds a bit of a sentimental value to it, doesn't it?
It does add a nice touch to the victory, bringing back memories of his first win. It's fascinating how certain tracks can really resonate with drivers, influencing their performance and their connection to the circuit over the years.
Absolutely, and with the tight competition we're seeing this season, every race, every lap counts. It's making for a thrilling championship battle.
Couldn't agree more. Let's see how this plays out in the races to come. Full throttle. What do you think about Lando Norris's reflections on the race? It seems like he's carrying a mix of disappointment and optimism.
It's quite a compelling mix, isn't it? Disappointment because he felt that the victory was within his grasp, especially with how quick the car was. Yet, there's a clear sense of optimism in his tone. His belief in the car and the team's performance across the weekend shows he's still very much in a fighting spirit.
Definitely, the start seems to have been the pivotal moment for him. Losing out in those first few seconds really set the tone for the rest of his race. It's interesting how such a small moment can have such a large impact on the outcome.
Absolutely, and it's these nuances that can make or break a race in Formula One. The margins are incredibly fine, and as Lando mentioned, it was only a small gap to Max initially, which just widened due to the circumstances at turn 1.
And looking ahead, he mentioned the upcoming races in Austria and Silverstone. It sounds like he's eager to turn that frustration into a driving force for the next few races.
Yes, and that's what you want to see in a driver, isn't it? That resilience and readiness to bounce back. It's clear he's not dwelling on the what could have been too much and instead focusing on how to improve. That's the mark of a racer who's not just fast but also mentally strong.
True, and with the season heating up, every point, every podium matters. It'll be fascinating to see how this plays out and whether Lando can turn these lessons into victory soon.
Indeed, the championship is still wide open, and with performances like these, it's anyone's game. The excitement just keeps building.
Full throttle. Speaking of making a significant return to the podium, Lewis Hamilton's performance this weekend was rather noteworthy. His maneuver at Turn 1 was quite the highlight, wasn't it?
Indeed, it was a sterling example of his skill. He mentioned the close combat with Carlos Sainz. It's that kind of wheel-to-wheel racing that really gets the adrenaline going for fans and drivers alike. Would you say that these aggressive but fair battles are what define Hamilton's style?
Absolutely, it's that aggressive precision that has marked much of his career. He also pointed out the importance of the pit stop strategy, which played a crucial role this weekend. Opting for soft, medium, soft as opposed to George's choice of hard tyres. It's fascinating how these decisions are made. What's your take on how critical these strategy calls are during a race?
They are absolutely vital. The choice of tyre and the timing of the pit stop can completely alter the course of the race. It seems Hamilton was quite involved in the decision to avoid the hard tyres. How significant do you think driver input is in these strategic decisions?
It's immensely significant. Drivers like Hamilton, with years of experience, have a keen sense of what works best in various conditions. Their input can make the difference between a podium finish and a middle-of-the-pack result. And with Hamilton's feedback, it appears the team made a well-informed choice.
Speaking of strategy, the dynamic at the first corner seems to have been a crucial point for many races this weekend. With Hamilton's description of the event, how do you see these initial moments of the race shaping the overall outcome?
They're often pivotal. The start and the first corner can set the tone for the entire race. A bad start can put even the best drivers at a disadvantage, as we saw with both Hamilton and Norris. It's about quick recovery and strategic overtaking to regain position, which Hamilton managed brilliantly.
With all these strategic elements at play, the season is shaping up to be a thrilling one. What are your expectations for the upcoming races based on what we've seen so far?
The competition is fierce, and the strategies are evolving race by race. It's going to be a test of adaptability and quick thinking. If the teams and drivers continue to push the envelope as they have been, we're in for an exceptionally exciting season. Moving on to Max Verstappen's comments, it seems the team had a solid but challenging race. He mentioned struggling with tyre degradation towards the end, which nearly cost them despite an aggressive strategy. What are your thoughts on how tyre management is playing an increasingly pivotal role in race outcomes?
Tyre management is indeed becoming a crucial element. It's interesting to hear Max candidly admit that they are struggling for pace and tyre life compared to Lando Norris. This honesty about their current limitations shows a clear area where they need improvement. Do you think this will put additional pressure on the team to innovate and find quicker solutions?
It certainly might. Max's admission that they were lucky Lando didn't catch up further by the end suggests they were really pushing the limit of their current capabilities. And with the Austrian Grand Prix on the horizon, where he said historical performance doesn't guarantee current success, it seems they're bracing for more tight battles. How significant do you think it is for a team to remain adaptive, especially mid-season?
It's absolutely vital. The ability to adapt and evolve through the season can really separate the good teams from the great ones. Max's perspective that past victories at the Red Bull Ring won't necessarily predict future success there is quite telling. It underscores the dynamic nature of the sport, where continual technical enhancements and strategic flexibility are key.
Yes, and Max also highlighted the importance of being strong as a team and making the right calls at the right time. It's not just about having the fastest car, but also about maximizing every opportunity, wouldn't you agree?
Definitely. Formula One is as much about strategy and teamwork as it is about speed. Max's emphasis on optimizing their package and being strategically astute, even without the fastest car, is a testament to how multifaceted this sport is. Do you think we'll see any major strategic shifts in the upcoming races, particularly at the Red Bull Ring?
It's highly possible. The teams are constantly analyzing data and opponent strategies, so adapting and tweaking their approaches is almost a given. The next race will be a true test of how well teams like Red Bull and McLaren can apply these learnings under pressure.
With the stakes so high and the margin so thin, it's shaping up to be another thrilling chapter in this season's story.
Absolutely, and we'll be here to cover all the twists and turns as they happen. Lando Norris also shared some candid thoughts on his race, expressing disappointment despite finishing P2. He felt they had the quickest car but admitted a poor start cost them the race. It's interesting to see such transparency about performance from drivers post-race, isn't it?
Absolutely, it's refreshing to hear drivers acknowledge where things didn't go according to plan. Speaking of plans, Lando mentioned they had the perfect strategy but just couldn't capitalize on it due to the start. How much do you think these small margins at the start impact the overall race strategy?
Well, they're immensely impactful. The start can dictate the entire race, as we saw with Lando. If you lose positions early, it can be incredibly difficult to recover, even with a superior strategy or car performance.
That's true. And with George getting ahead early on, do you think there was anything else Lando could have done to regain the lead, or was it just a case of circumstances out of his control?
At that level, sometimes it's just about making the best of the hand you're dealt. But what's your take on the psychological impact? Frustration must play a role in how drivers manage the rest of the race.
Oh, undoubtedly. Managing emotions is as critical as managing tire wear or fuel. But considering the narrow margins you mentioned earlier, do you think the psychological aspect is something teams actively coach on?
They do, to an extent. However, when you're in the heat of the moment, it's really down to the driver's own resilience and...
Sorry to interrupt, but given that mental strength, could better psychological preparation have changed the outcome for Lando?
Possibly, but let's not delve too deep into hypotheticals. Every race is a learning experience, anyway.
Right, of course. Moving on, looking at the team dynamics, how crucial do you think internal team support is during such high-pressure moments?
It's fundamental. The team support can make or break a driver's confidence and performance. It's all about how they rally around their driver, providing not just technical but moral support.
Definitely. It's that team spirit that can often give a driver the extra edge they need. And speaking of edge, the upcoming races are going to be quite the edge-of-the-seat thrillers, don't you think?
Absolutely, with the competition so tight and every point crucial, we're in for a thrilling continuation of the season.
Couldn't agree more. It's the unpredictability that keeps us all hooked.
Lando Norris certainly gave us a lot to consider after today's race. He mentioned that unlike in Montreal, where the car wasn't the fastest, today they had the best car but still didn't manage to secure the win due to his start. It's a testament to how crucial every second is in Formula One, isn't it?
Absolutely, every detail counts. Speaking of details, Lando described a thrilling maneuver during lap 35 where he battled side by side with George Russell. This kind of aggressive racing really shows the driver's skill and the car's capabilities, doesn't it?
It does indeed. The way he described making George defend into turn 1, gaining the advantage with a cutback maneuver, it's classic racing but executed so well. These moments are what make the sport so exhilarating to watch. But Lando also mentioned it was a bit disrespectful and costly in terms of time lost to maximum. How do you view this balance between aggressive racing and respectful conduct on the track?
It's a fine line. Drivers need to be assertive to make those crucial overtakes but must also maintain respect for each other's space and safety. The bit disrespectful comment likely refers to just how close they were pushing each other to the limits. What's your thought on the impact of such tight racing on a driver's strategy?
Well, while it adds to the spectacle for the fans, it certainly complicates things strategically. Drivers have to weigh up the risk of losing time or causing damage versus the gain from overtaking. Lando's battle with George is a perfect example. Although he succeeded, the time lost ultimately affected his position relative to maximum.
Definitely, and with the season progressing, how important do you think it is for drivers like Lando to take these risks, especially when they are consistently within a few tenths of pole?
It's crucial, especially as the field is so competitive now with 4 teams capable of fighting for pole positions and wins. Taking calculated risks might be the only way to differentiate themselves from the pack.
And looking ahead to Austria, Lando seemed quite confident about their chances there given the car's performance. Do you think we could see a strategic shift from McLaren to ensure they capitalize on these opportunities?
Potentially, yes. Austria has been a good turning point for them before, and with the car performing well, it might be the perfect venue to try something different strategically to gain that extra edge. It's all about timing and execution, after all.
True, and with the championship races so tight, every point and position will be fiercely contested. It's going to be an exciting few races ahead.
Absolutely, each race brings its own set of challenges and opportunities, and I can't wait to see how it all unfolds. Moving on to McLaren's performance, Lando Norris mentioned that while they have strengths, they're still lagging a bit in high-speed corners compared to Red Bull. It's a candid admission about where improvements are needed. It will be fascinating to see how they address this specific area moving forward.
Indeed, and it's clear that every team has their Achilles heel, no matter how well they perform overall. Switching gears to Mercedes, Lewis Hamilton also had quite a day, returning to the podium for the first time this year. He highlighted the immense effort from the team, both on the track and back at the factory. It seems like a real morale booster for them.
Absolutely, Lewis's podium finish not only signifies a potential upward trajectory for Mercedes but also brings a much-needed boost to team morale. He mentioned the continuous fine-tuning of their package and the need for additional upgrades. It's a delicate balance between optimizing what they have and pushing for more substantial changes.
That's an interesting point. The idea that continuous incremental improvements are just as vital as the bigger upgrades. It's a strategy that seems to be slowly paying dividends for them.
Definitely, and considering the tight competition, every little bit of enhancement can make a significant difference. Speaking of competition, Lewis had a couple of tight moments with Carlos Sainz, didn't he? Discussing the overtaking maneuver, Lewis emphasized that he left enough room during their battle, which Carlos seemed to contest.
Yes, and those moments really highlight the intense nature of racing where every inch of space and every decision can be disputed. It's these dynamics that make Formula One so enthralling.
Indeed, and every driver has their perspective on such tight situations. Hamilton's view on the overtaking maneuver sheds light on the fine line they tread between aggressive racing and maintaining sportsmanship.
I've never thought about it from that angle. It's a good point to ponder, how drivers and teams manage the balance between aggression and respect on the track, especially under such high stakes and speeds.
Exactly, it's these nuances that make the sport not only a test of speed but also of strategy and conduct. As the season progresses, it will be intriguing to see how these elements play out in the races to come, especially with the technological upgrades and strategic tweaks still on the horizon.
Certainly, with a field as competitive as it is, the remainder of the season promises to be as unpredictable as it is exciting.
Lewis Hamilton touched on an interesting point about the importance of qualifying. He admits that improving his performance on Saturdays could significantly ease the pressure on race day. It's insightful to hear how critical he views the start of the race weekend in setting up a successful Sunday.
It really underscores the interconnected nature of a race weekend, doesn't it? Qualifying isn't just about securing a good grid position, it's about setting a tone, building confidence, and strategically positioning oneself amidst the competition.
Absolutely, and the momentum Mercedes is building now is crucial. Lewis mentioned they're getting more consistent, which is key as they try to close the gap to the front-runners. Consistency in Formula One can often be the difference between a podium finish and a middle-of-the-pack struggle.
Speaking of consistency, the conversation around Max Verstappen's recent victories came up during the questions from the floor. It seems there's a bit of a mixed reception to his dominance. What do you think about that?
It's a fascinating aspect of sports, isn't it? Success often breeds contention. Lando Norris weighed in on this, highlighting that while those within Formula One respect and appreciate what Max is achieving, the general public might not always share that sentiment. It's a reminder of how perceptions can vary significantly between the enthusiasts and the casual viewers.
That's a good point to ponder. This difference in perception highlights a broader issue in sport. Appreciating the technical excellence and consistency can sometimes be overshadowed by the desire for more competitive spectacle.
True, and Norris's comment about the inevitability of boos in sport, regardless of the achievement, touches on another reality. It's about balance, isn't it? Balancing respect and rivalry, appreciation, and the natural human inclination towards competition and drama.
Indeed, and it all adds layers to the narrative of a Formula One season. As much as it's about the cars and the drivers, it's also about the fans, their reactions, and how all these elements interact over the course of a race and indeed, a season.
As we look forward to the next few races, it will be interesting to see how Mercedes capitalizes on their momentum and how the fans' perceptions may shift as the championship progresses. The dynamics both on and off the track continue to make this season a compelling one to follow. Moving on to the gritty details of the race, there was an interesting exchange regarding the close racing between Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. Max joked about getting Lando a birthday present of a big mirror or some glasses, highlighting just how tight the racing was, with Lando squeezing Max onto the grass at the start.
It sounds like there's a bit of humor but also some real tension there. In your view, how does this type of hard racing shape the dynamics between drivers, especially when it comes to maintaining professionalism on the track?
It's certainly a fine line. This kind of hard racing can push drivers to their limits, testing not only their driving skills but also their patience and sportsmanship. It's about finding that edge without crossing over into recklessness. Lando's stance that he gave enough space and Max acknowledging the competitive nature of their maneuvers shows a mutual understanding of the stakes involved.
With these high-pressure situations, is there a concern about how these interactions could impact team strategies, especially when points are on the line?
Definitely, every move on the track can have significant implications not just for individual standings but for the team's season as a whole. Teams have to continuously adapt their strategies based on the dynamics between drivers, which can change from one race to the next. It's a balancing act between aggressive racing to gain positions and the strategic need to secure points consistently.
And considering the audience's perspective, this kind of rivalry and on-track battle Does it enhance the viewer's experience, or could it potentially turn fans away if they perceive it as too aggressive or unfair?
That's a great question. Generally, fans love close, competitive racing. It's the essence of the sport. However, there is a threshold where if the competition becomes too aggressive or perceived as unfair, it could indeed turn some fans off. It's about maintaining that excitement while ensuring the sport remains respectful and sportsmanlike. The reactions from the fans, cheering, booing, or any direct response, often reflect how well the sport is managing this balance.
So, as we look forward to the next races, it'll be intriguing to see how these dynamics evolve, especially between drivers like Max and Lando who are clearly pushing each other to the limits.
Absolutely, and it's this push and pull that keeps the sport so dynamic and engaging for the fans. With each race providing new challenges and opportunities, the narrative continues to develop, keeping all of us eagerly anticipating what's next. And speaking of the racing dynamics, it reminds me of a chess game I was watching last night. It was fascinating to see how each strategic move can shift the balance, much like in Formula 1. There was this one move where...
Sounds interesting, but we might be drifting a bit from today's main discussion, don't you think?
Right, my apologies. Got a bit carried away there. Let's steer back to the Formula 1 track.
Absolutely, let's focus on how these strategic moves play out in the upcoming Grand Prix.
Reflecting on Lando's comments from the recent race, it's clear that the strategy played a pivotal role. Despite some questioning the decision not to cover Max on the first stint, Lando emphasized the tyre advantage he gained, which simplified overtaking George. It's intriguing how he points out the importance of strategic choices in those crucial moments.
Indeed, it sounds like the team's approach, even if questioned by some, ultimately gave him the edge he needed at the right time. Strategy in Formula 1 isn't just about speed, but also about when to make those critical decisions. Would you say that this kind of strategy making is what separates the top teams from the rest?
Absolutely, it's those incremental decisions that can make or break a race. Lando mentioned that even though they've made a few mistakes this year, the strategic planning has generally been very strong. It's fascinating how the dynamics within the team and the decisions made during those split seconds define the course of the race.
And with the margins being so fine between teams like Red Bull and McLaren, as Lando pointed out, every little detail counts, doesn't it?
Precisely, it's those minute details and incremental steps that can edge a team ahead. It's not just about having a quick car, it's about optimizing every aspect of the race weekend, from tyre strategy to pit stops to the driver's performance on the track. And as the teams get closer in terms of performance, these factors become even more crucial.
Looking ahead, how do you see these strategies evolving, especially with the technological advancements and new regulations coming into play?
As the sport continues to evolve, teams will need to be even more adaptable and sharp with their strategies. The introduction of new technologies and regulations will certainly shake things up, demanding quicker adaptations and even more innovative approaches. It will be intriguing to see how teams like McLaren and Red Bull navigate these changes while continuing to push the boundaries of what's possible on the track.
Listening to Max reflect on the challenges they've faced, it brings me back to my childhood in Birmingham. I remember vividly how we used to race our bicycles through the neighborhood, tweaking little things on our bikes, trying to gain every possible advantage. It was all about those fine margins, just like it is in Formula 1 today. We would change the tire pressure or adjust the seat height, hoping it would make us a bit faster than the others. It's fascinating how some things don't change, it's always those small adjustments that can make a big difference.
That's a brilliant analogy. It really puts into perspective how even the smallest changes can impact the overall performance. In Formula 1, as Max mentioned, it's about continuously finding those incremental improvements. Whether it's better tire management or slight aerodynamic tweaks, every little bit contributes to the overall race outcome.
Exactly, and it's not just about being fast. It's about being smart, knowing when to push the car and when to hold back to preserve the tires. It's a delicate balance, much like we used to balance on our bikes, trying not to fall off while pushing them to their limits.
And with the upcoming races, it'll be interesting to see how teams like Red Bull and McLaren adapt. Given the intense competition and the rapid pace of development, staying ahead is more challenging than ever. What do you think will be the key focus for these teams moving forward?
I think the focus will definitely be on optimizing what they have and pushing for those little bits of performance wherever possible. Also, how they manage the balance between pushing the car to its limits and preserving its components will be crucial, especially with the races coming thick and fast. The teams that can adapt quickly to different track conditions and demands will likely come out on top.
Shifting gears to Lewis Hamilton's recent remarks, it's fascinating to see his perspective on Mercedes' performance. He mentions not being in a position to compete for wins just yet, but highlights the importance of consistent improvement and momentum. They are eyeing more consistent results to climb higher in the point standings.
Absolutely, consistency seems to be the mantra for Mercedes at the moment. It's clear they are not yet where they want to be, but there's an optimism around the incremental improvements. With Lewis moving to Ferrari next year, how critical do you think these improvements are for Mercedes in terms of attracting and retaining top talent?
It's crucial. Mercedes has always been a powerhouse in Formula One, and maintaining that level of performance, even in times of transition, is key to their strategy. It's not just about the immediate results, but also setting up a foundation for future success. As Lewis mentioned, they are focused on bringing upgrades and bolting on performance to stay competitive.
With the high-speed circuits coming up and the evident improvements in their car, do you think Mercedes might surprise us in races like at Silverstone or the A1 Ring?
It's certainly possible. The high-speed tracks could play to their strengths, especially if they continue to refine their performance and strategy. Lewis hinted at giving Red Bull and McLaren more trouble in the coming races, so it'll be interesting to see if they can translate these improvements into tangible results on track.
And with the dynamic changes in team performances, how significant is the role of the development race in this season's championship battle?
It's enormous. The mid-season development race can dramatically alter the competitive landscape. Teams like Mercedes that are continuously working on their cars can gain significant advantages. As the teams head into the latter part of the season, those upgrades could be the difference between leading the pack or playing catch-up. Moving on to Lewis's remarks about his future team, Ferrari, it's interesting to note his calm despite the team's recent struggles. He mentioned their victory in Monaco, but there's been a lot of speculation about why Ferrari hasn't performed consistently. Some say there could be internal issues or perhaps some strategic missteps.
That's quite a juicy tidbit to share on air. But we have to be careful. Speculating too much about internal team dynamics without solid evidence could lead us down the wrong path. These things can often be more complex than they appear.
Absolutely, and it's important to remember that what we see from the outside isn't always the full picture. Teams like Ferrari are incredibly complex operations, and a myriad of factors can affect their performance on any given weekend. But it does make you wonder, doesn't it? Given all the resources they have, the fluctuations in performance are indeed puzzling.
True, it's tempting to delve into those mysteries. Still, we must respect the fact that these teams are doing their best under immense pressure. It's all part of the thrilling unpredictability of Formula One. But back to Lewis, his focus on setup issues and tyre management sheds some light on what's been holding Mercedes back. It seems like they are making strides in understanding their car better.
Yes, and that's crucial for any team. Getting the car to behave consistently across different circuits is a monumental challenge. Lewis mentioned that their car is quite peaky and often out of balance, which can really complicate driving, especially in qualifying. If they can smooth out these issues, we might see them closing the gap further.
It does sound like they're on the cusp of turning a corner, which could make the upcoming races quite interesting. The development race never stops in Formula One, and it often brings surprises that no one saw coming.
Lando Norris has been quite open about his experiences on track lately. He feels that he pushed perhaps too hard at the beginning of the race and that affected his performance towards the end. It's a delicate balance, isn't it? Managing that aggression and conservation throughout the race.
Absolutely, it's all about that strategy and knowing your car. Lando mentioned he's getting more comfortable and understanding how to extract the most out of his car. That progression is crucial, especially mid-season.
And speaking of progression, Lando's quite optimistic about the championship, despite acknowledging the need to reel in Max Verstappen's lead. He mentioned some missed opportunities in recent races where he felt victories were within grasp but slipped away. It really highlights the fine margins in Formula One.
It does indeed. And each race is a learning curve. Those should have, would have, could have moments can define a season. Lando seems determined to refine those details and challenge for the top.
On that note, he also pointed out the need for clean air and some assistance from doctors to make significant moves. It's interesting how these technical elements play such a pivotal role in a driver's strategy during the race.
That's right, and while we're on the subject of strategy, the ongoing development of the cars and how the teams manage that also adds another layer of complexity to the races. Every upgrade can potentially shift the dynamics of the championship.
Exactly, and as we look ahead, the question remains, how much of a challenge can teams like Mercedes and McLaren pose to the current leaders? It's going to be fascinating to see how the strategies and car developments unfold in the coming races. Max Verstappen's recent remarks really underline the intensity of the competition this season. He's clearly focused on what his team can control, optimizing his current package rather than worrying about the advancements other teams might be making.
That's a solid mindset to have, especially in a sport as competitive as Formula One. Keeping focus internally on improvements rather than getting caught up in the competition's progress can sometimes make all the difference.
Indeed, and it's that focus that led him to clinch the win at the super-tight Spanish Grand Prix. It was a nail-biter of a race, with Norris just behind him. That must have been quite a moment for him, navigating those pressures to maintain the lead.
And let's not forget Lewis Hamilton securing his first podium of 2024 at the same event. It shows that even seasoned drivers like Hamilton are constantly adapting and finding new ways to stay relevant in the ever-evolving sport.
Absolutely, the dynamics of Formula One are ever-changing. Speaking of changes, the technical strategies that teams employ are crucial. For instance, the Red Bull setup dilemma in Barcelona allowed McLaren to sneak into pole position. It's fascinating how each decision plays a critical role in race outcomes.
It really is a testament to how strategic and technical Formula One is. Every race weekend poses new challenges and offers a new set of variables that teams need to manage effectively to come out on top.
As we near the end of today's discussion, it's clear that the race for the championship is as heated as ever, with drivers and teams pushing their limits. The upcoming races are sure to bring more excitement and, undoubtedly, more surprises. William, what's the word on the street, internet-wise?
Right, let's dive into some fresh comments from the fans. Viewcaller227 mentioned, quote, Toto Wolff, Horner said that Max, will stay. Let's see, we leave him with this idea. We'll see if the W15 will be a car that can convince Maximum. It's Max who wins the races and not Red Bull. The RB20 is solid, but Perez isn't doing well. It's Max who makes the difference, unquote.
Seems like there's a bit of a tussle over Max's future then?
Absolutely, and the fans are weighing in heavily. STE Ferrari said, quote, he's not giving up, unquote. To which Viewcaller227 responded, quote, can't blame him, unquote. Loose Juice ID added, quote, seriously. I'd be trying right up until the lights go out in the first race next year, unquote.
The passion is palpable. Any more gems?
Oh, there's more. Turbo Dorito chimed in with a cheeky scenario, quote, imagine the scenes when he gets out of the car after the formation lap and tells George to get out and swap, unquote. And Killer88 followed up with, quote, as Toto activates a button that ejects Russell out of the car, unquote.
Blimey, the imagination runs wild with these fans. Anything on the more technical side of things?
Indeed, TWV discusses the ongoing negotiations, mentioning, quote, he is working the media together with his partner in crime and F1 team co-owner Mercedes AG, by word of CEO Ola Kalinius, saying Max, would look good in silver. I think the negotiations between Mercedes F1's three shareholder representatives, Toto Wolff, James Ratcliffe, Ineos, and Ola Kalinius, Mercedes AG, are very much ongoing, unquote.
It's all about the drama and the deals in F1, isn't it? Always something brewing behind the scenes.
That's the thrill of it, isn't it? From tactical maneuvers on the track to strategic negotiations off it. Keeps us all on our toes.
Thanks for tuning into F1 Motor Fever podcast today. We've tackled everything from driver dynamics to team strategies and the intricacies of F1 negotiations. It's been a pleasure having you with us. Do remember to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss out on our discussions. Your engagement truly enhances our community, so share our podcast, drop us a comment, and keep the conversations going.
And while you're at it, why not tell someone about us? Maybe shout about F1 Motor Fever podcast from your rooftop, or perhaps just during your next Zoom call might be safer, eh? Keep your eyes peeled for our next episode. We'll bring more of the excitement right to your speakers.
We truly value your support and are already gearing up for another thrilling episode. Thanks again for listening, and remember,
pedal to the metal, keep your gaze on the road, our channel's content is pure gold. See you next time.